Step inside if you dare. Welcome. You've just entered the crime vault. Here, we delve into the darkest corners of the human psyche. We explore the minds and motives of the most notorious criminals in history. Are you ready to confront the truly disturbing? To face the evil that lurks beneath the surface? Then brace yourself. Our stories are not for the faint of heart. They are raw, they are real, and they will stay with you long after the video ends. Jeffrey Dahmer, a name synonymous with horror. Today, we journey into the depraved world of Jeffrey Dahmer, a name whispered in fear, a name forever etched in the annals of criminal history. Dahmer was a monster cloaked in normalcy, an unassuming figure who hid a terrifying darkness within. For years, he preyed on the vulnerable, luring them into his web of horror. His crimes, unthinkable, depraved. Over the next 25 minutes, we will dissect the life and crimes of this infamous serial killer. We will examine his victims. We will explore his psyche. And we will uncover the chilling details that shocked a nation. A troubled beginning. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, born in 1960, an unremarkable child in an unremarkable town, or so it seemed. But behind the facade of normalcy, a storm brewed. His parents, Lionel and Joyce, struggled to connect with their quiet, withdrawn son. Theirs was a troubled marriage, plagued by arguments and emotional distance. Young Jeffrey retreated further into himself. By his early teens, a macabre fascination began to take root. He became fixated on death, on decay. He collected roadkill, drawn to the sight of lifeless creatures. He dissected animal carcasses, captivated by their anatomy. A morbid curiosity blossomed, a fascination that would later morph into something far more sinister, something monstrous. An unusual obsession. As Dahmer grew older, his fascination with death intensified. He became increasingly isolated, his behavior growing more erratic. Alcohol became a crutch, a way to numb the darkness within. His interest in animals took a dark turn. He no longer simply observed their deaths. He orchestrated them. He trapped small animals, torturing and killing them. His urges became more twisted. He experimented with preserving their bodies, driven by a desire to possess these lifeless creatures, to control them, to keep them close. This obsession with control, with possession, would become a hallmark of his crimes, a chilling foreshadowing of the horrors to come. High school offered little respite for Dahmer. He remained an outcast, a loner. His grades plummeted. His only solace found in the bottom of a bottle. His parents' marriage finally crumbled, leaving Dahmer adrift, alone, lost in a spiral of despair and depravity. His dark fantasies intensified. No longer content with animals, he began to fantasize about controlling other human beings, about possessing them, about silencing their life force and keeping them forever. The line between fantasy and reality blurred. The monster within, long dormant, began to stir. A seed of evil, planted in childhood, now ready to bloom. The year was 1978. Jeffrey Dahmer, just 18 years old, tasted blood for the first time. His victim, Stephen Hicks, a hitchhiker lured to Dahmer's childhood home with the promise of beer and companionship. Hicks, full of life and dreams, unknowingly walked into a nightmare. Inside the seemingly ordinary house, a darkness festered. Dahmer, fueled by a potent cocktail of alcohol and repressed desires, struck. He bludgeoned Hicks with a dumbbell, silencing his pleas for mercy. The deed done, a chilling calmness washed over Dahmer. He dismembered Hicks's body in the basement, scattering the remains in the woods. This first kill ignited a monstrous hunger in Dahmer, a hunger that would lie dormant for years, only to re-emerge with a vengeance, a hunger that would consume countless lives. Nine long years passed before Dahmer killed again. He moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a new city, a fresh start, but the darkness within him followed. In 1987, it resurfaced. Dahmer, now more cunning, more methodical, began frequenting gay bars. He preyed on vulnerable young men, often offering them money or a place to stay. His second victim, Stephen Tuomi, met Dahmer at a bar. The details of that night remain shrouded in mystery, lost to Dahmer's claims of alcohol-induced amnesia. But one thing is certain, Tuomi never walked out of that hotel room alive. The killing triggered a terrifying escalation in Dahmer's depravity. He began to experiment with his victims, driven by a twisted desire to possess and control. Dahmer's apartment became a macabre chamber of horrors. The stench of death clung to the air, masked by bleach and deodorizers. He dismembered his victims, storing their remains in his refrigerator. He boiled skulls, seeking to preserve his trophies. He photographed his victims in various stages of dismemberment, documenting his gruesome handiwork. The Polaroids, discovered later by police, offered a chilling glimpse into the mind of a monster. Each victim, a life stolen, added to Dahmer's gruesome collection. He sought souvenirs, mementos of his dark deeds, skulls, genitals, pieces of flesh preserved in jars. His apartment, once a sanctuary, transformed into a shrine to death, a testament to the evil that lurked within its walls. The years that followed were a blur of carnage. Victim after victim fell prey to Dahmer's sinister charms. He lured them back to his apartment, promising companionship or a night of fleeting pleasure. Richard Guerrero, Anthony Sears, Raymond Smith, each name, a life extinguished. Dahmer's methods grew increasingly brutal. He drugged his victims, rendering them helpless. He strangled them, savoring their final breaths. He experimented with crude lobotomies, drilling holes into their skulls while they were still alive. He sought to create zombie-like companions, beings stripped of their will, existing solely for his pleasure. But his attempts always ended in failure, followed by brutal murder and dismemberment. The cycle of madness continued, fueled by an insatiable hunger for control. The case of Konerak Sinthasomphone, a 14-year-old Laotian boy, sent shockwaves through the community and exposed the horrifying failures of the system that should have protected him. Lured to Dahmer's apartment, Sinthasomphone managed to escape, stumbling out of the building, naked and disoriented. Two women saw him, disoriented and bleeding, and called the police. Dahmer, however, convinced the responding officers that Sinthasomphone was his adult lover, drunk and disoriented. Despite the protests of the witnesses, The police returned Synthasomphone to Dahmer's apartment. That night, Synthasomphone became another victim. His death, a tragic testament to police negligence and systemic indifference, sparked outrage and demands for accountability. The final months of Dahmer's reign of terror were marked by a frantic escalation of violence. He killed 4 more victims, their bodies found in various stages of decomposition in his apartment. Matt Turner, Jeremiah Weinberger, Oliver Lacey, Joseph Braderhoft. Each name added to the growing list of Dahmer's victims. Their deaths, a grim reminder of the monster lurking behind Dahmer's ordinary facade. But the end was near. Dahmer's reign of terror was about to come to an abrupt and chilling end, thanks to the courage of one man who managed to escape his clutches. May 27, 1991, a warm spring night in Milwaukee. Unbeknownst to the city's residents, a tragedy was unfolding that would expose the deep cracks in their justice system. Inside Dahmer's apartment, 14-year-old Konerak Sinthasomphone lay drugged and disoriented. He had managed to escape the clutches of the monster, his naked body a beacon of terror and desperation. 2 women, Glenda Cleveland and Nicole Adams, spotted Synthasomphone, dazed and bleeding, on the street. Alarmed, they called the police. Hope, however fleeting, arrived in the form of 2 officers. Officers John Belcherzak and Joseph Gibberish responded to the call. What should have been a routine investigation, a chance to rescue a child in peril, quickly devolved into a horrifying display of negligence. Dahmer, a master manipulator, convinced the officers that Synthasomphone was his adult lover, drunk and disoriented. Despite the boy's obvious distress, his inability to communicate coherently, the officers accepted Dahmer's lies. Cleveland and Adams pleaded with the officers, insisting that the boy was just a child, that something was terribly wrong. Their pleas fell on deaf ears. The officers, dismissing their concerns as unfounded, escorted Synthasomphone back to Dahmer's apartment. News of the police's failure to protect Synthasomphone ignited a firestorm of outrage. The public demanded answers. How could this happen? How could a child be returned to the clutches of a monster, while witnesses begged for intervention? The Synthasomphone case became a symbol of systemic failure, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of prejudice and indifference. Echoes of failure. The Shadow of Konerak. The investigation revealed a series of missteps, a cascade of errors that sealed Synthasomphone's fate. The officers failed to check Dahmer's background, which would have revealed his status as a registered sex offender. They dismissed the concerns of the witnesses, their voices drowned out by assumptions and biases. They prioritized a quick resolution over a thorough investigation, a choice that cost a young boy his life. The Synthasomphone case cast a long shadow over the Milwaukee Police Department. It forced a reckoning, a painful examination of the systemic failures that allowed a predator to operate unchecked for so long. The echoes of that failure reverberated through the years, a constant reminder of the importance of vigilance, empathy, and an unwavering commitment to justice for all. A desperate struggle. Tracy Edwards' escape. July 22, 1991. The sweltering heat of a Milwaukee summer hung heavy in the air. Inside Dahmer's apartment, a desperate struggle for survival was about to unfold. Tracy Edwards, a 32-year-old man, had agreed to accompany Dahmer back to his apartment. The promise of money for posing for photos lured Edwards in, unaware of the horror that awaited him. Inside the dimly lit apartment, a putrid smell assaulted Edwards' senses. He noticed photographs scattered around depicting dismembered bodies. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through the haze of Dahmer's feigned normalcy. Dahmer, sensing Edwards' unease, attempted to handcuff him. A struggle ensued, a desperate fight for survival. Edwards, fueled by adrenaline and terror, managed to break free, landing a blow that sent Dahmer reeling. Unmasking a monster, the gruesome discoveries at 924 North 25th Street. Edwards, bruised but alive, escaped into the night, the specter of Dahmer's madness clinging to him. He flagged down 2 police officers. His frantic story met with initial skepticism. Edwards insisted. He led the officers back to 924 North 25th Street, apartment 213. What they found inside would etch itself onto their souls, a scene of unimaginable horror. The stench of decay was overpowering. Photographs of dismembered bodies lay scattered throughout the apartment. A severed head sat in the refrigerator, its lifeless eyes staring into oblivion. Drawers overflowed with Polaroids, documenting Dahmer's gruesome handiwork. The officers, hardened by years on the force, were shaken to their core. They had stumbled upon a charnel house, a testament to the depths of human depravity. A confession unfolds. Dahmer details his depraved deeds. The arrest of Jeffrey Dahmer sent shockwaves through Milwaukee and beyond. The scale of his crimes, the sheer brutality and depravity, shocked the nation. Yet, in the face of overwhelming evidence, Dahmer remained eerily calm. He waived his right to an attorney, eager to confess his sins. Over the course of several days, Dahmer detailed his crimes, his matter-of-fact tone sending chills down the spines of seasoned detectives. He spoke of his desire to control his victims, to possess them completely. He described his attempts to create zombie-like companions, his experiments in lobotomies, his descent into cannibalism, his confession, a chilling narrative of obsession, murder, and necrophilia, painted a portrait of a monster who hid in plain sight, a monster who had terrorized Milwaukee for far too long. Justice, at last, the trial and sentencing of Jeffrey Dahmer. The trial began in January 1992. The world watched as details of his crimes unfolded. The evidence was overwhelming. Photographs, body parts, Dahmer's confessions. The jury was unconvinced. They found Dahmer guilty on 15 counts of murder, sentenced to 15 life terms, 957 years. The sentencing brought a sense of closure. Death behind bars. A gruesome end to a gruesome tale. November 28, 1994. 2 years into his sentence, Jeffrey Dahmer met a violent end. While cleaning a prison bathroom, he was attacked by fellow inmate Christopher Scarver. Scarver, serving a life sentence for murder, had been disturbed by Dahmer's crimes, by his casual demeanor and lack of remorse. Armed with a metal bar, he bludgeoned Dahmer to death. Dahmer's death, brutal and sudden, brought a sense of grim satisfaction to some. The monster had finally been vanquished. His reign of terror brought to a definitive end. Yet his legacy of horror lived on, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. A reminder the monsters often wear the masks of normalcy, their true nature hidden until it's too late. The news of Jeffrey Dahmer's death sent shockwaves through the nation. There was a sense of relief, of course. The monster was gone, silenced forever. But the scars he inflicted on Milwaukee, on the families of his victims, on the very fabric of society, ran deep. The trial had exposed the dark underbelly of Milwaukee, the vulnerabilities of its marginalized communities, the systemic failures that allowed a predator to operate unchecked for so long. The Synthasomphone case, a stark reminder of police negligence and racial bias, sparked protests, and it was calling for reform. The city grappled with its demons, demanding accountability, seeking answers. The families of Dahmer's victims, forever bound by their shared tragedy, sought solace in their grief. They mourned the sons, brothers, fathers, friends stolen from them. They struggled to comprehend the incomprehensible, to find meaning in the senselessness of their loss. The unanswered questions, searching for meaning in the darkness. In the aftermath of Dahmer's crimes, a collective search for answers began. How could someone like Dahmer exist? What drove him to commit such unspeakable acts? Were there warning signs, missed opportunities to intervene? Experts weighed in, offering theories, dissecting Dahmer's psyche. They spoke of psychopathy, of a profound lack of empathy, of a twisted need for control and domination. Some pointed to a troubled childhood, a fractured family life, a fascination with death that morphed into something monstrous. Others focused on the societal factors, the homophobia, the racism that allowed Dahmer to prey on vulnerable young men with impunity. But ultimately, there were no easy answers, no single explanation that could fully encompass the depths of Dahmer's depravity. The mystery of his evil remained, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can reside within the human heart, a legacy of horror, a call for vigilance. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes left an indelible mark on the American psyche. His name became synonymous with horror, a chilling reminder of life's fragility. His case forced a national conversation about serial killers and societal factors. The enduring legacy of Dahmer is a call for vigilance, to never turn a blind eye. The uncomfortable truth. The Crime Vault doesn't offer easy answers. We don't shy away from the darkness. Instead, we shine a light on the darkest corners of humanity. We confront the uncomfortable truth that monsters are real. Jeffrey Dahmer's story is a stark reminder of that truth. He was a predator who exploited the vulnerable, who reveled in their suffering. His crimes were acts of unimaginable cruelty, fueled by a twisted psyche. But Dahmer's story is not unique. It is a chilling echo of countless other cases, countless other victims whose voices have been silenced. It is a reminder that evil can lurk anywhere, often hidden in plain sight. It is a call to action, a demand to confront the darkness within ourselves and in the world around us. journey into darkness. The Crime Vault is more than just a collection of true crime stories. It is a journey into the heart of darkness. It is an exploration of the human psyche, both the good and the evil. We strive to shed light on the motivations and circumstances surrounding these crimes, to understand the why behind the unthinkable. We invite you to join us on this journey. Explore our channel. Delve into the cases that fascinate and horrify you. But be warned, once you enter the Crime Vault, you may never look at the world the same way again. If you find our content intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Stay updated with our latest investigations.